All right. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with one of my best friends, Yacine, Sibous. We used to live together in New York, actually. Yacine, you want to give kind of like a brief background about yourself?
Yeah, for sure, man. So we met in New York. No, we didn't meet in New York. We met in Miami.
We met
in Miami, and we lived together in New York for a year.
Yep.
So this was August 2021 to August 2022.
Yep.
Very nice pad.
Yep.
A lot of stories.
We'll have some stories to tell you guys.
To tell. But yeah, a bit about myself. I'm Yacine. I'm actually Canadian. I grew up in Montreal, and I'm the founder of a 9-figure fintech called Parker. So what we do is essentially a digital bank for e-commerce brands, e-com businesses, and the main product we offer is a corporate card.
Amazing. And Yacine, I know a lot of people. I would say Yacine is hands down one of my smartest friends. And so we've been talking about just getting on a podcast and just talking. Because we do this stuff on like a phone call nonstop, like once a week. We'll just talk for like an hour or two about some of the stuff where we're like, man, here's what I learned. Here's what I wish I knew. And we talk to each other about like business advice, personal advice, girls, you name it. And I figured, why not bring that to the world? Because a lot of the stuff we're solving is relevant to 99.9% of males out there.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly the idea. Essentially, the idea is we're on the phone. We're like, bro, all these conversations we're having, if we don't put them out to the world, they're useless, right? And a big reason why we want to do this is we were thinking, fuck, man, what if we knew this shit when we were 18 years old? Imagine if right now that conversation could be heard by our 17 or 18-year-old self, right?
Yeah.
So now we're both in our late 20s. There's all these experiences we've had, and we know that, wow, if only we can go back and give ourselves a blueprint then, how amazing it would be. So this is really for people in their late teens, early 20s who want to get to where we are today in even a faster amount of time than we did it in, right? Because we always say, man, like if I took myself under my wing at 17, I'd be able to get to where I am today at 19. And that's something I really believe, right? Because we were just kind of navigating the world blind, trying to figure out, all right, do I work on this business? Do I work on this idea? Should I build a tech company, an info product? How important is fitness? So when you're young, you're just kind of confused. It's like you're not too sure what the right things to do are. Should I go to an Ivy League college? Should I drop out? And now we kind of know, to be honest. Yeah. We know what it looks like to have a successful 20s. We know what it looks like to feel good. We see some of our friends. We see how different decisions you make in life, how it impacts the kind of life you end up with. And so we want to share it. We want to share it with everyone.
Absolutely. And when you're young, you treat time as a luxury. You think you have all the time in the world, and you'll spend years doing things that you shouldn't be doing, going around in circles. And then one day you'll wake up when you're 30, 40, and you'll be like, where did that time go? Why didn't I achieve my goals?
100%. People could spend years of their lives going around in circles. It's fucking crazy, man.
Crazy.
Like we've seen it with a lot of people, like
100%.
Working on the same business ideas for 5, 6, 7 years, going around in circles, not making progress. It's a crazy reality to see, and it could easily be avoided if you just have the right blueprint. But
Absolutely.
Speaking of time, actually, I think this is something we should talk about. It's like, how should you actually think about time, right? Because I think when you're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old and you're very young, usually the way people think about time is they think, oh, I'm 18, I'm young. Oh, I'm 20, I'm young. The way I think about time is I almost think about it like the time of my death is already determined, right? If you look at any grave, what does every grave has? It has the name, birth date, death date. So I go about life assuming that death date is already set. So when I think about my age, even now at 27, 28, I'm not like, oh, 27 years. I'm 27 years old. I'm a young man. I think, wow, 27 years have already passed. 28 years have already passed. And so when you're 18, 19, 20, if you think about it in terms of, wow, 18 years have already gone by. That's since I was born. That's a lot of years, right? How could I use my time effectively to get what I want out of life? And we can talk about essentially what those things
100%.
are that you want, because I think people get confused on what those things are, but they're actually pretty simple when you really break them down.
100%. And here's where I don't agree with Gary Vee, because Gary Vee is always like, you have time, it's never too late. And that's what people want to hear. It just feels good, right? You have time, it's never too late to get started. But the truth is there is a time clock ticking. If you don't get started now, if you don't have that urgency, you're gonna run out of time.
Yes. And you need to really, really think that whenever you wake up, you need to be just grateful that you're fucking alive and that you're getting another chance. You can't be like, oh, I'm young, it doesn't matter, I have all the time in the world. No, that's fucking bullshit. I have childhood friends who've already passed, you know? Like, we're lucky to have made it this far.
Yeah.
Not everyone gets to live that long. That's just the reality. So given that you have a finite amount of time, so here's the thing. I agree that it's never too late, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't start right away. That doesn't mean that you should procrastinate, right? Because let's say you get to 30 or 35, even 45, right? And you realize that you fucked up. What are you going to do? Are you just going to keep fucking up, or are you going to change? It's obviously better for you to change. But having said that, you can make the right choices early on where you don't get in that position of regret, right? Regret is not, you'll hear people say, oh, everybody has regrets. Yes, there's some truth to that. But some people definitely don't have as much regrets as others, right? That's not something you necessarily have to live with if you make the right hard choices. And actually, Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater, has a great quote on this, right? It's hard choices, easy life, easy choices, hard life. And I think that's just very, very true, right? When it comes down to discipline around exercise, discipline around business, discipline around career choices, right? Making the difficult choices. Like, when I look back at when I was starting out the business, it was fucking crazy. Like, I looked like a crazy person doing it, but I knew at that moment when I was 20, 21 years old, I was like, hey, if I never pursue this and I don't pursue it now, I know that this is something that I'm going to regret, because that drive and hunger was so strong. Like, dude, like, the hunger at the time, it was like I was in a famine. That's how hungry I was. It was like, imagine going without food for a week. That's how hungry I felt about starting a tech company. So I knew that was something I was going to regret not doing, and I just went for it.
Yeah. And I truly believe one of the biggest reasons for unhappiness is people having regrets and not doing the things that they wish they would have done, right? Like, if people only did that, the amount of happy people we'd have in this world would be significantly greater. And so because of that, and there's a study on this, right? There's a female caretaker in Australia, and basically she worked at this nursing home, and she worked with people on their deathbeds, and she interviewed people, and she would ask people what their biggest regrets were before they died. And that number one thing was, the number one said thing across all people was, I wish I lived a life that was meaningful for me and not of what others wanted for me. And so it comes down to urgency. It comes down to limiting beliefs, right? Why can't I do certain things, or why can't I pursue certain things, right? You said, like, oh, maybe I'll do this once I'm 35 and I've saved up enough. But what people don't understand is, by the time you get to that point in time, you may have a completely different worldview in life. And the older you get, the less risk you will take. That's just a fact. And so when you don't start now, that's what's going to create regret, because you may never end up one day pursuing what you actually wanted to do.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. So I'm curious to hear from you on this. What do you think people regret? Like, what do you think a young man should do to avoid regrets? Because I have ideas on this, and I'm curious to hear.
100%. I believe it comes down to the three main aspects, which is your health, your wealth, and relationships. So health, right? If you are a young man, there is no reason why you should not be physically healthy and look like you're in shape, like you're strong, like you work out, right? You get one body in this life. So if you don't do that, people might say, oh, I don't care about the gym, but you're not going to be able to look like what you can look like in your 20s and 30s, even 40s and onwards later in life, just because you neglected your health for, who knows, work. Maybe you neglected it for a girl. And so health is a big one. Wealth is obviously one of the biggest ones, right? Not taking that risk to pursue what you want to do, to start a business, to, like whatever thing you wanted to do to make more money versus working this 9 to 5 that you don't enjoy. If you don't take that risk, people will regret that. And the final thing is the relationships, right? I see so many people settle in their relationships. So it could be the first girl they meet, right? It's because they're scared. They have social anxiety. They don't approach that cute girl that they actually liked. And now they spend the next 5 years thinking, what if?
Friendships too.
Like
wasting a lot of time with the wrong friends who aren't aligned. I have a bit of a different view on this than you do. So it's actually would be considered part of your third one. And I would say that it's what's super important to cultivate at a young age is a healthy relationship with yourself. So when I was 17, 18, I was definitely way too harsh on myself. So I was way too harsh. I would fucking make myself study 15, 16 hours a day, thinking if I don't work this hard, I'm going to regret it. But in hindsight, I would have told myself, like, dude, the most important thing for you right now is to develop a healthy amount of self-love, self-respect, and self-belief. So I think for me, that's just number one. Like, I think the foundation really to avoid creating these regrets is not having this relationship with yourself where you hate yourself. Because what happens when a human being hates themselves, right? They start enacting and doing things that reflect that inner state. So in a lot of examples I've seen, it's people will in America with the college culture, people will hate themselves for not going to the right college, right? Which doesn't matter. And then they'll waste years of their lives pounding themselves for not going to the right school. Which is dude, just let go. It doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Or pounding themselves for not getting the right grades. We know now, dude, when's the last fucking time you thought about your grades? You never think about it,
Never.
And I was a pretty good student too in high school. For whatever time I spent in college, I was studying honors physics, hard majors. Literally doesn't matter. You don't think about it. So I think step one to not having regrets is developing the self-love. Because if you develop the self-love, then by nature of loving yourself, I think these other things will come easy, right? If you love yourself, you're going to take care of your body, right? You're not going to look at yourself in the mirror and you'll look at your body. Look at the one body you have and you'll say, wow, this is a temple. I need to really take care of this. This is the body I have to take me through life. When it comes down to careers, you're not going to let yourself take on a career that's not the right fit. You're going to think, hey, let me just take the risk of starting the business I want to start, or let me go be a content creator. Let me try these things. You're going to give yourself permission to do these things, right? When you lack that confidence, when you lack that self-love, you're not going to give yourself permission to do any of those things, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm some dumb fuck. I'm going to go, I don't know, do this thing I don't want to. I can't do this.
This person has X, Y, and Z.
X, Y, Z, and you have self-limiting beliefs. I remember having that. I remember when I got into Y Combinator, and the biggest shock for me was oh, what the fuck? This whole time, I thought, I didn't go to the right schools. They're going to care about this. They're going to care about that. And it didn't fucking matter. It literally didn't matter. I remember getting into Y Combinator first try. We get the call from the YC partner. It's like, hey, you guys got in. You know, Milan, my co-founder. I was just like, what the fuck? That was a huge identity crisis for me. Because I remember at the time thinking, oh, wow. Like, I went all these years thinking I couldn't do this, achieve this goal, and I was just completely fucking wrong.
And it's the worldview that's created for you when you're young, because you're not able to think and create your own worldview of what's actually reality. And so what ends up happening is you have this worldview of what everyone else is telling you, your teachers, your parents, what your friends value, right? Which is grades. In high school, it's getting good grades to get to a good college, right? You're looking around at everyone. Come junior year of high school, everyone's applying. You're looking at your grades, your SAT scores, and you're stressed out, right?
It's a value system.
Exactly, right? And then, what was the other thing you just talked about? YC?
Yeah, getting into YC.
Exactly, right? Like, it's none of this stuff actually matters. The times I was stressed that I failed tests or, oh my God, I couldn't think twice about any of that. No one.
It just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen so many people develop this just self-hate because they weren't getting what they want. And that self-hate it's just a vicious cycle where it snowballs over years and years and years. And then they convince themselves that they can't do anything in life. And they're basically crippled, right? They've crippled themselves into the system where it's like, no, actually, you know, if you're persistent, you keep going after a goal, you're probably going to get there if you're doing the right steps, right?
Yeah.
Like, one thing I've learned too is the outcome a lot of the times is almost guaranteed if you're taking the right steps. Like, if you're young and healthy and you're doing the right lifts at the gym 3-4 times a week, you're doing cardio, you're counting your calories, and you do that over a period of time, you're going to get fit. It's the same thing with business, right? If, you know, in the case of building a tech company, a tech startup, if you're talking to customers and building a product that they want and you're growing, adding on more customers, you're going to build a scaled business. That's just how it works. You know, I think it was probably the same for you and Info. Yeah, one thing I do want to get into is how do you actually think about your career? Because I think that when people are young, you'll often hear them speak about passion, like I'm looking for what I'm interested in, as if there's like this thing they're going to do that brings them euphoria. But reality doesn't work like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In reality, it's more utilitarian. It's more like I need to find something that, yes, I enjoy doing, but that can create the lifestyle that I want.
I believe it. You need to balance what you're looking for when it comes to choosing a career that you like, because it can't just be full scale on the spectrum of I'm 10 out of 10. I love doing this.
Yeah.
But then 0 out of 10 on the spectrum of how much money I can make here. Unless you just truly don't care about money. But at the end of the day, you do need to be in some sort of bracket income wise to actually live a good life.
Yeah. I would say I'm more utilitarian about it. Like, it's true and false. Like, when I was younger, right, I definitely knew at a young age that I wanted to build a tech company because I thought, one, with technology, you can really change the way society functions and the way humans interact with the world. And two, is obviously very lucrative. If you look at all the biggest things in the world right now, they're literally outcomes of technology businesses, right? Technology companies. And I think it's for a reason, because if you think about like how much value Uber adds to the life of you and all the people you know, it's tremendous. And that's what I was trying to achieve. But when I do think about what I'm working on and how to structure businesses, like cash flowing businesses versus more net worth like businesses like Parker, I do think about it in a pretty utilitarian way, which is like, how do I understand what customers want, what the market wants, and how do I deliver that to them? And I tend to keep myself out of the equation. The only way I keep myself into the equation is more so thinking practically about what is it that I know that others don't know, where I can have an edge building this business. And that's how I think about it. But it's never like, wow, doing this thing gives me this like euphoric, this euphoric feeling.
I definitely, I think about it in the same way you do now, but in the beginning, I definitely did not.
Okay.
Because in the beginning, when I first was trying to figure out what to do with my career, it was only money, 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 right? How do you make money? And so like trading doesn't really bring value to the world, right? But you can make good money trading. So that was kind of my first stab at it, is like I was primarily focused on money. But I think as you start to make money, as you start to pursue things, you end up looking for some bigger purpose, right? And so then that's what created Stock Navigators, and the businesses that were starting from that.
Yeah, that I agree with. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like in the beginning, it's like, dude, if you're not making any money, just solve your cash flow problem, your personal cash flow problem first, which you can solve pretty, not easily, but definitely in a very doable way with like a number of things. You can start an agency. You can, what else? What are the basic things? Agency, e-com,
high ticket sales. I mean, there's so much stuff you can do online now to make money, right? Like you could even start off as a video editor. You can consultant even. There's people consulting on just different niches out there. So whatever it is, I feel like you can make 10K a month from home, basically doing whatever you want. That's an online skill if you build towards it. And I think you can get there in 6 months. So
yeah, I agree. I think 6 months entirely doable. Okay, so what are the topics we have? I want to make sure we...
So we have frameworks for life, what we wish we knew at X age, college versus no college, the 5 people you surround yourself with, how to think of time, which I think we did.
Yeah.
What should you focus on?
Okay, I think what we can do is we can give frameworks for life, and then we can give like a daily blueprint of what you should do every day if you're 18. So it's like, okay, so here's what I would do if I were 18 years old. If I were 18 years old, this is basically what I would tell myself. I would actually break life down to very, very clear first principles in a way that is so like dummy proof, easy to understand that anyone could get it. So I'd say, 1, you have no control over the passage of time. So let go of the things you don't control. However, you can decide what you're going to do in a day. And life is lived one day at a time. And so you have to learn how to master your day, and you have to understand what you need to fit into that day so that every day is successful and you're compounding these days. And if you make sure that every day is successful, then you will just have the outcomes you want. So here's what I think the foundations are. So number 1 is get into the right sleep regimen. So my sleep was very fucked up at that age. And I actually only found a solution to my sleep recently. And this is how I fixed it. So I would tell myself, 1, set an alarm at the time you want to wake up, whether it's 6, 7, 8 a.m., doesn't matter. By the way, the whole idea of waking up at 4 a.m. to be successful at business is complete bullshit. You can wake up whenever you want. It's not correlated. But I would set an alarm early in the morning, definitely before 10 though, so like probably around 8, 7:30. First thing I would do, glass of water, get sun, and eat breakfast. I was doing intermittent fasting for the fucking longest time. And for someone like me who had trouble sleeping, it's the worst thing ever. Eating breakfast fixed my sleep. So having a lean protein meal in the morning. So that's what I would literally like stuff that's so simple like this is what I tell myself. So 1, you need to work on that. So you need to make sure you have a good sleep regimen, wake up early, get a lean protein breakfast, and then the pillar to having a good life is your health. So I would get all the health related activities first thing in the morning. That's run and exercise and meditation. So I would just tell myself, hey, just go sit down 15 minutes. Even if it seems stupid at first, just sit down there, close your eyes, focus on your breath, put a timer, just sit there for 10, 15 minutes a day. Then I would do my daily reading. And then, if I ate, maybe wait a couple hours before I exercise, do that. And then I would start filling in the work and the social life stuff. And then we can go into what kind of work I would actually do at that age.
Very nice. So mine is pretty different from yours, which is interesting to hear.
Okay.
So the framework for life I wish I knew at 18 is to keep things simple and routine. Basically reduce complexity and just double down on simplicity. And so for me, what the routine that I found where I really basically, when I was in monk mode, so to speak. So for me, the routine that helped me a lot was going to bed at the same time every night. So going to bed, same time, waking up the same time every single day. Very, very key. And in order for you to pursue wealth and money and go all in for that, you need to solve your health and your sleep first. So you and I are aligned.
We agree. That we align on.
Yeah. And so for me, though, I didn't have any issues with intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting for me was game changer, because when I used to eat in the mornings, I would get tired. And so my morning routine, it's more complex now, but in the early days when you have no money, this is the morning routine that you need. You just need to go to bed and wake up at the same time. It doesn't matter if it's 5 a.m. or if it's at 8 a.m. Just make sure it's at the same time that you wake up every single day and then you go to bed. And then what you do is you should work out first thing in the morning and just get your workout done with the day. Because what ends up happening is if you work out later in the day and you're so focused on work, you might be tired or you're procrastinating and you're push it off. So for me, boom, first thing in the morning, work out, get out of the way. After that, shower, because then boom, you're going to be awake from your shower, sit down, meditate for 10, 15 minutes, and then you start your work day and you just go all in. So that was basically the most simple routine that I found that really boosted my productivity when I was grinding on business in the early days.
Yeah, it's like, because when I think about that topic of what I wish I knew at 18, it's actually a very complex topic because there's more than one thing, right? It's like breaking down into mindset. It's like different on mindset, and then there's routines, right? It's like now we're talking about the practical shit. But in terms of mindset, I don't know if you're recording, but in terms of mindset, it's like you need to understand that everything around you is just made up by other people.
Oh, he has your phone.
That's like a core belief you need to have, because, and this actually comes from Steve Jobs, because once you understand that, you realize that you can also be one of the people in the world that creates and invents new things, and that you don't have to be some fucking NPC. You can be like an action hero in the world, and that's your choice, right? And the other thing to also understand is like, yo, bro, honestly, probably 99% of the people around you are fucking naysayers. Most people around you are probably convincing you that you can't be what you want to be.
100%.
And that's a complete lie, you know? So those are actually, in terms of mindset, those are, like, when I look back, those are the likely realities. The likely realities you have to understand. You have to internalize that whatever people have laid out for you, so whatever the school system has laid out for you, whatever your parents have laid out for you, is likely not going to get you one of what you want out of life. And if you want to go after the things you really want, you're going to need a different blueprint. That's number one. So if you stay in the same silo, the same funnel, the same, I'm going to go to high school, graduate, go to college, then get a job and do this, and I'm not going to exercise, I'm not going to do this shit, you're going to get the same results as everybody else. Now, if you look at everybody else and you say, it's good life, which it actually it is in some cases, you know, like definitely easier to be a software engineer at Google making $400K a year than like, starting from scratch. But if you want something different, you can't expect to get different results doing what everyone else is doing. That's number one. Number two, I would tell myself, everyone around you is basically a naysayer. Don't try to convince the people around you of your ideas. Just fucking go and start now. Like, don't try to convince a friend to start something with you. You're not going to convince them. Most of the people around you are just bought into this tracked life, and you're going to waste your time trying to convince others. Just start what you want to do right now, and then the right people will come along once you're on your journey. Because I think there's this thing when you're young where you're trying to work with friends, you're trying to start businesses with friends, and eventually I got lucky and found Milan. But to be honest with you, I think actually even in this incident, I started first on my own, and then Milan came on later. So I would say you just need to go on your own. Like, you're on this journey alone. You have to accept that. It's very lonely. Just go for it. And it's on you to make the right choices. Now, once you've internalized, like, okay, looking around when I'm in school, most of these people are naysayers. They might talk that they want to do it, but they won't actually do it. They're going to follow the track path. And that's very liberating, because now you're like, okay, I'm on my own doing this. Two, realize that, you're actually going to have to take different actions. So you need to build up the confidence that if you do these different things and you do them right, you're going to get what you want. And then those things to do, we're basically explaining now. So one, it starts with the routine, right? You got to take care of your health. How do you do it? Tim basically explained it. Good habit of sleep. What's going to fuck up your sleep habit is what? Probably like social media addiction, video games, all this stuff.
You can't be scrolling on TikTok, and then next thing you know, you're supposed to be in bed by 10, and now it's 1 a.m.
Yeah, don't do that shit.
Yep.
Just fucking delete it off your phone, right?
100%.
It's like, delete the stuff, because you can easily wake up 7 years later and you still have that bad habit of fucking being on TikTok all the time, right? Yeah. I mean, this is probably going to be on TikTok, and it's fine to watch a little bit of it, but don't be a fucking drug addict with this stuff.
Yeah. Limit your time, 30 minutes a day on TikTok, max, not 2 to 3 hours. Some people even 5-6 hours on their phone.
Honestly, if you're just getting started, you should probably not be scrolling. And look, there's a big difference between having a consumer mindset and a creator mindset with this stuff, right? There's a big difference between someone who creates content and someone who doesn't post and consumes all day. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be consuming this stuff all day.
Exactly. It's different when you're creating it.
And I'm saying this, but when I was a teenager, I struggled with this shit too. Like, I loved Facebook. I loved social media. I loved scrolling on Instagram.
It's okay when you're in high school and junior high, you're just on your phone. Like, you don't really have any, like...
I disagree, bro. Because I think that at that age is when you're forming these habits. And if you form this habit of addiction to social media at a young age, it's harder to kick off later on.
Yeah, but then, it's very tough to just even be in touch with your school friends and stuff.
That's true.
So it's a balance, right? At least for me, I'm not addicted now, but I just know, like,
we had periods.
We've had periods of where we've overused it. But so you were talking earlier about, what was it? The frameworks for you went into basically what now you should think about for kind of your peers and the frameworks for life, right? So we talked about routine. You shared yours, I shared mine. I think the big thing after that as well is my big thing when you're first starting out is you need to have self-delusion too. Because when think about it, if you want to be...
That's a really good one, yeah.
Right? If you want to be the 1%, if you're in a room of 100 people, 99% of people are going to be doing the exact same things. And you have to convince and believe that what you're doing is going to end up bettering off than what 99% of people in that room are going to be doing.
Early on, and this is interesting too, is early on, you have to have delusional self-belief. And I would argue that it's not delusional, because the way things work out is that's kind of how life is you come up with a vision and you work towards achieving it. But in the beginning, you need to be like, if the version of me that started Parker, like, walked into the room and told us that they were to do what I'm doing now, we'd look at the guy and be like, you're fucking nuts. Like, there's no way, you know? Like, how are you going to do this? But I figured it out. And I think that, like you're saying, having that delusional self-belief that you can create, it's basically believing that you have the power within you to create a reality that is completely different from the one you're in right now.
Yeah. And the tricky thing when you're young as well is when you're young, the younger you are, the more easily influenced you are by other people's opinions. And so that's extremely important to know early on because, and sometimes, honestly, maybe the trick is just don't tell people what you're doing because then you won't be influenced by all these naysayers, like we were talking about, telling you, oh, this is why it's going to fail. This is why it's not going to work out.
Yes.
Just go do it. Don't even tell anyone because like you're going to get the same answer 99% of the time, which is it's not going to work out.
It's not going to work out.
People are going to talk shit behind your back.
It's risky. 99% of ideas, businesses fail.
Yes.
Like those are just basically self-limiting beliefs that people have. That's all it is.
100%. And I think it's thank God I was stubborn because, you know, I took me 3 or 4 companies before Stock Navigator, before this one took off. And even then, every single time it was, oh, here's why this idea isn't good. Here's why it's this. But it's like the people who are telling you why you can't do something are the same people where you don't want to be in their position.
You don't want to be,
You don't want to be.
So don't take advice. If someone's someone you don't want to be, like if you wouldn't trade lives with them, don't take their advice.
Don't take their advice.
Don't take, like, if you look at your friends, even if you guys are 20, if you're like, bro, I don't want to be him, like I wouldn't trade lives with him, then don't take his advice. You know, if he doesn't have the money you want, the lifestyle you want, just don't take his advice, right? Like, it's literally that simple.
Yeah. So, man, that's why I think that from 18 to 25, like those are the defining years, even in high school, just even from when you're 13 to 18 also, right? These are your defining years of your childhood. And the most toxic thing that can happen to you is when 99% of people share their limiting beliefs, share their self-doubt, and throw their worldview onto you and convince you that you can't do something.
Yes, exactly. Or convince you that what you want is impossible to get, what you want is only for a certain kind of person. And I think what's interesting is I think about the idea of, okay, so we were talking about how old people have these regrets, right? And I think that in the times in my life where I've realized, where I've had a regret around, you know, an accomplishment or something that could have gone differently, usually it's around the realization that that whole time, it was just because of a self-limiting belief, right? Like when people say, I wish I had lived my life for myself, what they mean by that is more like, yeah, in hindsight, like hindsight being 2020, I was just being brainwashed into, I was just like brainwashing myself into thinking all these things couldn't be done, or like that I had to do X, I had to do Y, but I actually didn't, you know?
Yep.
That I think that's like the realization that people have. Because the times I've had regrets, you know, that's basically what I was realizing. I was like, oh, what the fuck? This thing I wanted was actually, that was pretty straightforward to get. I just had to do X, Y, Z, you know?
100%. All right, so let's talk about college versus no college. And I think...
No college.
Yeah. You and I both have very similar beliefs on this, but
yeah, man,
when Yacine and I look at these young kids who are 20,
Dude,
21,
like,
22, who are making like 100 to 200K a month profit, and I think about it, and I'm like, how is that possible? Everything comes back to no college, right? Because you spend 4 years of your life basically like in school. Like I'm 27 now, but I started this company.
It's also so bad for your sense of self and identity because you keep reaffirming and associating your identity with grades and what the system thinks of you. It's like, dude, when we look at the guys who got the results younger, even Milan, right? So Milan's 23 years old, running a 9-figure business, right? Like that's actually fucking insane.
Yeah.
And he just didn't do the college thing.
College, and like, I'm thinking about it for me now. I started my company 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so
we can
imagine
say the PC shit of, oh yeah, if you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, then college makes sense.
Yes,
or
you need some
if
professional degree.
If you're having a good time. But the reality is, if it's fucking 2023, if you still think you need a college degree to get what you want out of life, you're actually the delusional one.
100%. Like,
I'm
for sure
you're
not
the
sending
one who's delusional.
100%. I'm for sure not sending my kids to college. Like, you and I might have to create some school.
And there's a difference between being educated and being college educating. Having said that, like you do need good writing skills, reading skills,
yes,
math competency. Like I see it when I hire people. Like dude, like you need to know how to fucking write well. You know,
you can't write a paragraph.
Yeah, it's like you need to have those basic skills. That's very important. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
But we're saying that the idea that you need to be following these courses all day at that age is. Do you know? I have a hypothesis. I have like this idea that college makes more sense in your 50s and 60s. Like, because it's like, if you think about the activity of it, where you're just sitting down and you're reading books all day and you're learning about
just
some esoteric subjects, going to class, that actually sounds enjoyable when I'll be at another stage in life.
Exactly.
Not when you're 18.
Not when you're 18 in your prime years to like build a business.
Of energy where you should be like going to the gym, going out with friends, building your business, building your income.
Exactly. So
that's funny. That's a new tagline.
Yeah.
Maybe colleges would stick around, but people would go to them in like their later years to study philosophy or something.
The one thing I don't regret from going to college is the one thing I don't regret from going to college would be like the memories. Right, like the fun social life partying.
My memory is the library from college.
Exactly, like all you did was study.
Yeah, but at the time, my idea was I wanted to work on hard tech problems. So I thought, I would go in and I would work on aging research. You know, like how do we cure aging? I wanted to work on like humanity's hardest problems. That was like my nerd mindset at the time, like my academic mindset. So I was like, I want to work on aging research, or I want to help build quantum computers, or I want to work on AI. And like, I'm going to study and just go ham on studying these subjects and then do a PhD and then start something. And then, I discovered ecom when I was 20, and then just...
and then the rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah, exactly.
College. Okay, so... something else we can talk about would be the 5 people you surround yourself with. Like,
but dude, let's go back to college for a second.
Okay.
Like the debt people get into. Like I didn't have debts from the time I was there, but the debt levels people get into while they're there is insane.
For what too?
Like for what?
To make like a 40K a year job out of college.
It's crazy.
And it's like it's not like you learned in college those skills to get that 40 or 50K a year job after college. You don't. You're learning like, dude, my general education classes, I was taking like astrology and like random.
What kind of school? UCLA.
UCLA.
Astronomy, you mean? Astrology courses.
Bro, they had random stuff, man. I don't know what I was learning. Like, I didn't go to class. I would show up. I kid you not. The only things that I knew for my classes was one was the midterm, one was the final. And I would wake up the morning of the midterm. Well, I would pull an all-nighter first. And then I would know what time class started to take the test. And as I'm like getting ready, I'm trying to figure out like what building this class is in, because I wouldn't go to class just so I can go take the midterm, like with zero sleep, and then go back.
I wasn't like that. I was basically waking up every day, straight to the library, 15 hours a day, physics problems, computer science problems, math problems, philosophy. I was like, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to build a quantum computer or something.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Which isn't good. Like, I don't recommend doing it that way. Like I don't you need like creating this life of balance is super key. Like we talk about this all the time, right? It's like the idea is not to build a successful business. The idea is not to have a successful dating life or all this stuff. When we're talking about this, what we're really striving for is how do we actually have a successful life? Like how do we build the best life for ourselves, and what are the components of the good life? So, diet, health, exercising, these are all components of the good life. And the earlier you can start building the right habits to get access to that good life, the better it is. And we actually the reason we value that so much rather than just being like, say, hyper-focused. I mean, we are hyper-focused on business, but only valuing like business success is because we've both seen time and time again guys get into their like 40s where all they were doing all day was business, and they're basically they've like lost all social skills. They're like
100%. And
borderline.
Guess where they end up at the same
clubs
in Miami.
Same clubs in Miami
Because they
same places.
They didn't focus on women, and now they wake up. They have all this money. But you don't actually need that much money. You realize you don't actually need that much money, right?
Yeah.
And now they're in these clubs.
They're in these
trying
clubs.
to find women, and it's a crazy toxic cycle.
Yeah, it's crazy because they're like, "Fuck, I missed out," and it's never too late. But now it's like, "Fuck, man!" It's like maybe if they got to their 40s and they had developed those skills by then, it wouldn't be weird. But because it's like 25 years of business focus, and making money and not having any social life, and then you go out, then yeah, you're fucking weird.
Yeah.
When you're out, you're weird like doing the social life stuff, right?
100%.
So that's why we talk about the balance, because yeah, I mean, the regret minimization, I think, is basically creating that life of balance. In the beginning, you'll definitely have times and moments where you have to go more hardcore in one area to really get your goals, but the goal is always to become this like balanced Renaissance man.
Because most people, you have to understand, most people are not like Elon Musk, where they want to be working 100 hours a week, like glass, to like change humanity. But it's almost when you become an entrepreneur and you're around other entrepreneurs, right? That's what's rewarded. This hustle culture of like continue to grind, working. And don't get me wrong, you should work hard, but you also need to make sure you design your dream lifestyle that you want as well. And lo and behold, women and relationships are a big part of that. Same with your health. And if you neglect that, you're going to wake up 20 years down the line and be like, man, I chase everything for money. At what cost?
At what cost, yeah. I think the key is that there's multiple areas of your life that you have to work hard on. So I think a lot of men that we know have the wrong belief that if I solve the money, then everything else will come after, and that's just not reality. You have to really think of these different life verticals as being independent from one another, right? It's like business is a skill, social life is a skill, dating is a skill, health is a skill. They're all like fucking RuneScape, okay? It's like literally...
We're playing a video game. Life is a video game.
Or the guys who are like, yeah, it's like think about it like a video game. You have these different skill sets, and there's some correlation, right? There's like meta skills like discipline, things like that you can bring to all of them, but ultimately they exist in their own silo, and you need to know how to navigate them effectively as a man. Otherwise, good luck. Like you're gonna suffer.
And the thing with this stuff is it takes time. It takes time to figure out your health, your diet, what works for your body. It takes time to get good and getting in shape. It takes time to build a business and make money. It takes time to get good with women and dating and relationships and finding out who you are and your purpose. And you don't spend time on this. And I believe there's ways to structure it, right? Like one of the best times for you to get into health and in shape and learning all of that stuff is when you're in high school, literally, right?
That's the best
That's the best time, because then you have that routine, then boom, 18 plus, here's what you focus on now. Money,
yeah.
Right? Because then now you solve that, boom, you focus on women and relationships. And now you're at the age where women actually want to take you seriously. And so if you spend, and I want to say it takes about 4 to 5 years to just get your money right. and you can probably do it
You
sooner.
can build a good income in 6 to 12 months, but if you really want to live large, yeah, it'll take you some time.
Yeah,
It'll take you
like
some
4
time.
years,
Yeah,
I'd say.
I think 4 or 5 years you can build.
Correct. And
Some
then
serious wealth.
you can focus on women and spend a few years going on dates, right? Working on your game, learning how to talk to women, meeting
Yeah.
more women.
Having said that, I think, so you have a bit of a different background than I do, but I think that where people will fuck this shit up is their mental health is fucked up. Like their mental health is so fucked up that even if they try to start on these things, they're not going to be able to undertake it
Yeah.
because they're just in a very, very bad place mentally. They're dealing with depression, with hardcore anxiety, with all these things. And these are things, I had to work on myself because you realize like, whoa, your mental state, you're basically like your inner state is controlling your ability to create all of these things. And so if your inner state is fucked up, it's going to be a lot more challenging for you to get your physical health, right? To get the physical and mental go hand in hand, but it's going to be much harder for you to sit down and focus to build your business. If you're sitting down and you're trying to focus on building a business, but you're ruminating on negative thoughts constantly, how the fuck are you going to do it? It's not going to work, right?
You can't.
You need a pretty clear level-headed mind to be able to do this.
100%. All right. Well, I think we'll stop there or else you and I can go on for the next 6 hours. But frameworks for life, what we wish we knew when we were younger, college versus no college, how to think of time, and what you should focus on. So those are the topics we covered.
There's more blueprints.
There's a lot. We gave some nuggets.
We scratched the surface.
We scratched the surface of
the surface.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on this podcast, and hopefully you guys got some value.
Thanks, Tim.